Hey friends, I'm Christy, and you're listening to Rock the Damn Boat. If you've ever bitten your tongue to keep the peace or said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, this one's for you. And I'm just going to let you know that if you are watching, my dog Jolene is feeling very neglected today because we've been out running errands. And you can see she's got her paws up on my desk and she's like looking, well, now she's licking my hand, so she's not looking at the camera, but she needed a little love. So we're going to cut the intro a little short. And if you're watching, again, you can say hi to Jolene. She is saying hi to the camera. Too funny. All right. Well, today is a Sunday Shortie, and I'm finally going to spill the beans. Everybody's been asking about my new job, and I've hinted at it, but I have not shared any specifics with people outside of my circle. Haven't made a big LinkedIn post or anything like that. All right, I'm letting Jolene go lay down on the floor. It's so hot here in Texas, but I digress. So I am going back to a corporate job. I start at the end of June, and I feel like for a long time, maybe not a long time, and I certainly know I was not the first person to ever leave corporate, but I have been a little bit of poster child of sorts for the corporate exit. I'll talk through some of the things that have been going through my head, some of the lessons that I've learned over the past 7 months. This has been, a corporate exit turned career break instead. First of all, like I said, I am certainly not the only person to leave corporate to start a business. I felt like in a way I was not starting a business because I had hosted retreats in the past. I had done some coaching for women. Of course, I've been teaching yoga for 2 years. So it didn't really feel like starting from scratch. I had an email list built. I had a network built. I had a yoga community built. But when I quit my job last November, if you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, you know some of the different reasons. Certainly a desire to find something that filled me with purpose. Certainly menopause had a big influence on it. And then just feeling like I needed something different. And one of the things that I wanted to share specifically as it relates to menopause is I recently applied for TEDx South Lake, and I think I did it all wrong, so I am probably not going to hear back from them. But the big idea that I had latched onto was that we need to rethink how we view success. And in one of the studies that I researched, it was a study of 8,000 women all over the globe, so not just in the US. 13% of them quit their jobs due to menopausal symptoms. And when I think back to how chaotic everything was, how my brain felt like Swiss cheese and I just couldn't focus, that I know there was a huge element of my performance that was related to me. There was also some pressure, and corporate retail is, it's like any industry. It has its pros, its cons. It's can be really high pressure at times. And given the choice, I decided to just do things at my own pace and step away from corporate retail. And I think it's been a really good 7 months to recalibrate. I don't know if I can break this down into like a top 10 reasons I left or top 10 lessons I learned. There may not be a top 10 happening here. I made the choice in November to do my own thing, thinking that I would step into public speaking and host one retreat per quarter. So that was going to be from a base income, one retreat per quarter, plus supplementing with speaking and a group coaching cohorts. Well, January, I had several clients, and then January's retreat had 13 women signed up, and Old Man Winter decided to dump some snow the weekend of the retreat, and I moved it out to April. And I ended up having 4 women who were able to attend for those dates. So I actually lost money on that retreat. I planned Tahoe and didn't book anybody. So Tahoe wasn't happening. It it was a luxury Airbnb, so the prices for that retreat experience were definitely higher. And I didn't sign anybody up for my March coaching cohort. I tried to get in May, didn't have anyone for that one. There were a lot of things working against me from planned income. That has been issue, challenge, problem number one is the money was trickling in. And so many people would say, oh, it takes years to start a business. But again, I felt like I had the foundation for that. So going from having some business experience and just sort of evolving the business, I thought clients would be easier to come by. We'll put it that way. At the same time that I was doing this, everybody else was deciding to career pivot or go to work for themselves. And the AI world was getting noisy. And so everyone who wanted to coach or host retreats or build a community could all do that and market with AI more easily. So I was up against a lot more competition than I was in the past because even women half my age are deciding like, oh, I'm going to leave corporate and I'm going to do something different and I'm going to build a portfolio career, which I worked with marketing strategist Maggie Blackburn. She will be on the show in a few weeks, and worked with her on branding and message and did my best. And most recommendations that people have made to me, even going back to my yoga studio, I have tried. So you come to this point where you think, okay, I'm not trying hard enough. I'm not manifesting hard enough. It's me. I'm the problem. I felt like Taylor Swift. Like, I'm the problem. It's me. I don't want it bad enough. I have a mental block that I can't unlock. I have, this problem. And eventually you have to let go of the guilt and the shame that you might be pouring on yourself because it's not magically happening. Yes, that happens for some people. And of course, like every good manifester out there, I thought if I wanted it bad enough that it was going to happen, that I was going to be the exception. And I wasn't. And I had to make peace with that. And my husband, bless him, I get frustrated with him at times because he's such a realist and I would almost say pessimist. But he started talking about radical acceptance. And at first I wanted to roll my eyes and be like, I'm not radically accepting anything. Like, Case Kenny tells me I'm allowed to be delusional about my dreams. I started to let that idea simmer a little bit. And while I didn't see it the same way he did, I did start to think about things that represent that idea in a way that I have learned in the past. There's the serenity prayer that I learned in recovery. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I cannot change the economy right now. I cannot change the fact that gas is $4 or $5 a gallon. I can't change the fact that 5 million people have been laid off so far this year. It's insane. I can't change the speed at which AI is infiltrating our lives and our jobs. And people don't have as much disposable income. And I can't change that. And I'm not in that 1% of women who are making a living at this or making 6 figures or even 7 figures. And it's not that I don't think I can do it, but I needed some wins and they just weren't coming. So I realized that I needed to do something differently. And 7 months, nothing coming in, money going out, I had to change that situation. So I had been eyeing this job, and it was very much like the job that I had left. And I thought, well, I could do this job. I'm well qualified for it. I have a friend who works at this company. I am going to ask her if it's still open. Because it had been open on LinkedIn for quite a while. So I talked to her. She said, yeah, let me mention your name. Went through the interview process, felt in my body a lot of resistance. And when I hosted my retreat in April, I realized that I needed to be able to help women in a purpose-filled path outside of work. And this job was going to require what my last job wanted of me, which was more than 40 hours a week. You kind of have to be available all the time. And for me, I wanted to set that personal boundary that no, I will do this work that is required of me. And when I give something my all, it's probably 120%. Like I don't do anything half-ass, and I consider myself a high achiever. So I'm always going to give 110%, but I didn't want to give 150%. And some people do. And the person who took my role at my last company, he had been laid off. And I feel like it was just this beautiful working of the natural world order to allow him to take this job that I didn't want anymore. Long story short, I backed out of that first role and immediately thought I had made a huge mistake. Like I felt good at first, and then I woke up the next day and I felt terrible. And I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. So I decided to be very specific in my job search. I applied for a few more jobs, and one of them I heard back from the very same day. And the hiring manager is someone I used to work with at PetSmart. I had a dream that night that I went out to see their facility in North Carolina. So a week later, I meet with the hiring manager and the president of the company because it's a pretty small company. So I had both of them on the call. And then at the end of the call, they said, well, next steps will be having you out to visit our facility in North Carolina. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I dreamed about. Of course, I didn't tell them that because I thought they're going to think I'm woo, which I felt like it was just my intuition telling me like, yeah, this feels right, because that first job had felt so wrong. And I went out to visit Charlotte, North Carolina, saw the manufacturing plant, met with everyone. They were so nice. They said they really try to keep that family feel, even though they got bought out by a larger parent company. I have never worked for a huge corporation where I was just kind of a number. So I'm really excited to start this job at the end of June. I will be selling pet beds. I'm staying in the pet industry, and I'm sure you'll see the update on LinkedIn once I decide to post where I'm headed. And it's not that it's a big secret. I just don't know that everyone who's listening will know who they are. But I'm excited because I get to use the connections I have. I get to see people in the pet industry. Working in the pet industry is rewarding because your end user, it's not the pet parent, it's the pet. So just like I started the show with my dog in my arms and in my lap, and now she's cuddled up back on the couch behind me, our pets really rule our lives, right? I mean, Jolene is the most spoiled dog ever. Even our outdoor cats are the most spoiled cats ever. Like we love our pets. And so to be part of that industry makes it feel a little less draining than maybe if I were selling Post-it notes. And I only mention that because there's Post-it notes sitting on my desk. Now I do love a good Post-it note, so maybe I shouldn't knock the people who work for 3M. But I think that with everything that I've learned about myself over the past 7 months, I am doing the things and taking the steps to feel better. And my hope is then that by taking this, one of the women I interviewed with called it the most uncorporate corporate job she's ever had. So I'm going to go work for this uncorporate corporation and make a paycheck and still manage the community that I am building, that is yoga and nervous system regulation, while also building tenacity and resilience through the Thrive model. We had our first call this morning and it was amazing. We talked about intuition. We talked about not letting our thoughts turn into really toxic emotions. And then we did regulating breath work. And everybody really connected and it was beautiful. And that is what I want to continue to bring to people on weekends and evenings. I use my own time to do all of that stuff. And Some people say, gosh, Christy, you're so busy. Well, I used to fill those hours with drinking. So let's just be clear that 8 years ago, I decided to spend my time in a more productive manner than I was spending it before. Now, am I starting to slow down at 50, almost 51? Yes. And I know that with everything that comes our way and all this noise in the world and the collective hum of anxiety and burnout, that I do have to do more to regulate my own nervous system. But I am doing that. I know that I can help women like me who straddle a professional career, but still want to do something that brings them purpose and makes their heart full, like maybe writing a book or starting a podcast or, connecting in some way. So that is what we're doing in the Thrive Collective, and that is not going anywhere right now. I plan to continue to build that. Left corporate, really had a free fall with identity crisis and who am I and what am I doing? And I threw myself into generating new business for Thrive, and it just wasn't working out. It wasn't meant to be right now. I think about a friend who has gone through multiple IVF treatments. I think about women and men who desperately want a child and may not be able to do that in the way that they want to do that biologically. And if I had to put myself in the shoes of a woman who wanted a child so desperately and spent tens of thousands of dollars on IVF and it wouldn't work, that would be devastating. And the resilience of the women who go through that, and I'm not trying to downplay how that feels in my body to be disappointed that the business didn't thrive, ironically, but I understand that these emotions that we have, that this need to accept at some point that this is what is happening right now. And right now, it's a terrible economy. And I'm hopeful that a handful of women want to join the Thrive Collective, have live yoga, have live coaching calls. But it's okay if it takes time to build, because I get it. Gas is expensive. Life is expensive right now. So we'll do the best we can. I will continue to bring you inspiring stories on the podcast. And I am about to turn my manuscript over to the editor this week. So there is a new book coming out this fall. I've had some beta readers give excellent feedback so far. It will be the most polished work of historical fiction I can bring you, and I'll be teaching yoga and selling pet beds. So that's what's going on. Thank you so much for listening. I would love it if you started commenting on, leave a review on Apple or comment on Spotify. Let's just get some engagement going here on the podcast so that it gets in the hands of the right people. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Rock the Damn Boat, a podcast produced and recorded by Christy Hughes. You can follow, subscribe on both Apple and Spotify, and your 5-star review goes a long way. Thank you so much for your support of the show.